Hello, I'm Rima. At Odyssey, I oversee an overall health and development of the OMOP CDM alongside Dr. Christian Reich and Dr. Claire Blacketier. And today I have a very rewarding task, which is to summarize all the wisdom and knowledge that you have learned from the wonderful instructors. Make sure that you will take home the key concepts about the OMOP CDM and vocabulary. And for some of you, that you will take home even more. You will take home something tangible. And we are going to play a little Odyssey game, where I will ask questions about OMOP CDM and vocabulary, and those of you who know, I will not say guess correctly, who know correctly, please raise your hands and you will be rewarded. So question number 1. Let me use my cheat sheet. I remember answers, I don't remember questions. Okay. So what is the primary intent and the primary purpose of OMOP CDM or any CDM for that matter? Excellent. And why you, the gentleman on the right in the back, and why do we need to standardize? Could you?
Who said that?
No. The gentleman under the second painting on the right. Don? Raise your hand. It's yes.
I hear everybody saying
Somebody said standardization, right?
Oh, you lost the game because you didn't raise your hand.
No, I saw the gentleman. We know who you are. Second row from the back on the right. Second row from the back on the right. The gentleman wearing glasses. No. Okay. Who can? Yes. Standardization. All right. Wonderful. Jose, could you tell us why do we need to standardize the structure? Which is running queries, right? Asking questions about the data. Why do we need standardized vocabulary? Let me open. Yeah, you.
Remember to raise your hand.
More precisely, Monica?
Precise outcomes and standardized outcomes across all the different sites and locations and the different vocabularies and places and standards.
Almost there. Who else? Yes. All good answers, but we have a precise answer. Why do we use standardized vocabularies? Excellent. More. Do you remember Christian's example about that conference in Europe? What did they lack? One language. We want to speak one language about the data, right? I'm divided.
There we go. She gave the longest explanation. Yes, that's our executive decision.
What types of data can go to OMOP CDM? Who said any data? Any data. No matter, and one condition is as long as it talks about patient. Huh? Pictures? As long as it's about patient, as long as it's about patient-centric. If you currently we don't store images, we can store metadata about images, and we don't have a designated place in the CDM for that, but you can dump it in the observation table. So all your metadata about your images can be stored in the CDM as long, again, as it's about the patient. So we answered question number 3. Question number 4. What serves as the main link between CDM, OMOP CDM, and vocabulary? We have vocabulary where we store concepts. We have CDM where we store information about patients. So what goes into the CDM? Exactly. Who said concept ID? That's yeah. That's the primary link. Do we preserve, and it's a yes or no question, do we preserve or do we completely ignore source information about data provenance? Yes. We do preserve source information and provenance where our data came from and how it was recorded in the source data. What is the role of domain? Of concepts domain. And please think carefully, because Christian said, if they didn't learn anything at all from my presentation, this is the take-home message. What is the role of concept ID? Not concept ID, the concepts domain. Excellent, brilliant, CDM table. Concepts domain prescribes where each piece of information about patient data will go to which table. Excellent. You really want to push it, don't you? What is one of the fundamental features or principles of the OMOP Common Data Model? Excellent. Wonderful. And we'll talk about a definition of what patient-centric means, because we had a little discussion within our group, and I think that we need to generalize it a minute later. And the last question, how is OMOP development being carried out? Community. Excellent. So this is wonderful, and it shows that you have learned, and again, I have learned today from the wonderful instructors who also are community and collaborators of the OMOP CDM. And I'm going to briefly summarize the key principles and the key purpose of the OMOP CDM, OMOP vocabulary, and also tell you why we think that OMOP is unique. So, vocabulary, it's used to standardize terminology. No matter how your source data is coded, no matter how they decided to code serum albumin, whether it's loin code, whether it says serum albumin, or some inventive lab technician puts alb-S in the source, it will be mapped to a standard, one standard concept in the vocabulary, which will be LOINC, because we chose to use LOINC to represent our lab terminology. Number two, the vocabulary is built on the shoulders of terminologies in the US and all over the world, and about 90% of the OMOP vocabulary is sourced from the standard terminologies. The two types that are extensions are RX norm extensions that Dima mentioned, and also OMOP-born concepts that primarily describe metadata, data about data, the types of the sources, the domains, but the majority of the concepts come from the standard terminologies. They come from various sources, and as Christian well described, when you look at the sources, you will see all kinds of representations and structures which are far from intuitive. In OMOP vocabulary, they end up in one uniform structure. All the concepts go to concept table. All the relationships that are between the concepts, which are essentially ontology, go to concept relationship table. And then, in addition to that, we have concept hierarchy or concept ancestor table, which transcribes the hierarchies in a much better and usable structures. One very important question, and you've seen, Mui has given you some examples on the simplicity of usage of the vocabulary in your queries. And for those of you who know SQL, I think you could appreciate the simplicity. For those of you who don't, take our word for this. Because if you would like to find all breast cancer patients in your OMOP CDM instance, no matter where the data came from, whether it came from EMR, where it could be coded as ICD-9 and ICD-10, which are not granular and non-standard, or they come from your cancer registry and they're coded in ICD-O. You could have lobular carcinoma, you can have ductal carcinoma. One joint between condition occurrence table and concept ancestor table will provide you with all your breast cancer patients in the database. The vocabulary is not a static well, it's more or less static structure, I would say. I haven't seen changes since I joined OMOP, but the content is constantly updated, maintained, and improved. I just asked Dima and confirmed that the releases of OMOP content come from weekly to on weekly or bi-weekly basis. And the reason for that is that it's comprised of about 50 or more vocabularies, and the frequency of their updates is very different. They are not synchronized, and we would like to keep the OMOP vocabulary up to date in terms of the content. It's well maintained because one of the tasks that Dima's team is doing is fixing errors inherited from the source vocabularies. And another very important feature of the OMOP vocabulary that it's the relationship that we bring, the concept relationship that are brought to the vocabularies facilitate your ETL and your data analysis. One of the examples, we haven't talked today about clinical notes. And there is a clinical notes table in the CDM. Very infrequently, you know what line code is for a particular clinical note. But if you would like to know what's been done, what clinical notes you have for your patient or patients in the context of the perioperative care for cancer patients, all you need to know is that I have to look for the categories of, or for the classes of concepts in the vocabulary. And I will have to look at all instances of clinical notes, which are perioperative care, notes, and the domain of expertise would be, I said, cancer, oncology, right? OMOP CDM. As you correctly pointed out, it's used to standardize structure and queries. One of the unique features of this, it's integrated with controlled vocabulary. We consolidate data from heterogeneous data sources, EMR claims registries. The model is patient-centric, and I would like to stop here for a second and elaborate about what patient-centric is. And I think the best definition that I found and was suggested by Dawn Torek, who's standing on the right, is that it's a model that supports a longitudinal view at patient health information throughout patient's life, coming from different clinical settings. And the patient information is the overall patient health and the care that's been provided to the patient. And OMOP CDM, according to this definition, is absolutely patient-centric. One artifact which I liked is that you will find patient ID in any patient data table in the OMOP CDM. So if you want to look just at conditions and you don't care to link it to visits, you can do it using patient ID in the condition occurrence table. It's domain-based. A domain is another link between controlled vocabulary and OMOP CDM. Domain prescribes where your data, concepts domain prescribes where your data land, in which patient data table the patient data will land. We are preserving data provenance, which is critical for assessing quality of your ETL, and which could also be used to compare the standard terminology representation and source terminology representation and see if nothing has been lost in translation. We used to say that the CDM is RDBMS platform independent. Now we can say that it's just the database platform independent because some big data platforms like Cloudera adopted OMOP as their clinical data model. And what we think makes OMOP CDM and vocabulary unique. Christian is laughing. It's not related. No, it is unique in that it supports collaborative research across data sources, both within and outside of US. You can write an SQL query or create a phenotype and write an SQL query and send it to a remote city in the Ukraine, and they will rerun that query, and hopefully they will find their cohorts of patients that are comparable to yours in terms of its definition. It's developed solely based on the analytical use cases by community. You need to answer a certain research or analytical question. You bring it to the table, and the OMOP CDM group addresses what needs to be done to extend the CDM to answer your analytical or use question. It's very well specialized. For those of you who are familiar with a common data model like I2B2, where everything pretty much is stored in one table, in OMOP you have tables that are aligned with clinical domains. We have person, patient, we have visit occurrence and condition and procedures and others. And that specialization helps to make the attributes which are characteristic to a certain domain transparent. You will have drug dosage and frequency in the drug domain, and you will have procedure number or other procedure modifiers like laterality in the other. Saying it again and over again that its integration with vocabulary makes it stand out from any other CDMs that are around. And it's a fantastic and unique feature. It makes this model, the conglomeration of vocabulary and CDM, an information model. And what that means, that provides an excellent basis for automation. And it's a preview of the coming attraction, but we are adding even more integration. We are coding all fields and all tables from the OMOP CDM in the vocabulary. It's extendable. And what I mean by extendable, yes, it's extendable by the official or formal efforts of the CDM work group, but it can be also extendable by you without waiting. You can add your own concepts to the vocabulary. There are conventions for that. And you can represent the data that are not structured yet in the observation table, which makes it a wonderful playground for your use case. And then you can bring your use case to the CDM and ask whether you could structure it further. And the bottom and final statement is that it is collaborative. It's supported by a very supportive community of multidisciplinary collaborators. So we consider you joining the community, as Patrick would say, join the journey. And please reach out to us after this tutorial if you have any questions. Forums are there, and Christian doesn't sleep and answers all the questions 7/24, and some of us who are not, who require some sleep will address the rest. Thank you very much.
So we would like to test your support to the community. Tonight, you're going to get a survey from the Odyssey managers. We do this every year because we do want to try to see whether or not our tutorials are working, whether or not they are informative enough, too much information maybe. So let us know. Fill out the survey. Please do fill out the survey for us so that we can get the feedback. Your feedback, as a customer service person would tell you, your feedback is extremely important to us. Please take the 5 minutes to fill it out. Okay? And there's no prize at the end, but just help us fill it out. Thank you for your patience today. Thank you for everything. You know, coming here, I know it takes a long trip for some of you guys, and all the little issues we have with the electricity around here. So thank you very much for your time. If you guys have any questions, just let us know. All right, thank you.